Number 8. The Luftwaffe. The Luftwaffe was the Nazi Air Force during World War II. It was established in 1935 despite the Treaty of Versailles, which banned Germany from creating an air force after the First World War. It was led by Hermann Göring, an ally of Adolf Hitler and a former fighter ace. The group played a key role in German victories in Poland, Norway, France, and the Soviet Union, using their superior aircraft to achieve air superiority and support ground forces. They also conducted strategic bombing campaigns against Allied targets, causing massive destruction and casualties. They were made up of multiple branches, consisting of fighters, bombers, dive bombers, transport planes, reconnaissance planes, and night fighters. The Luftwaffe also had paratroopers known as Fallschirmjäger, who performed airborne assaults. The Luftwaffe had some of the most advanced and innovative aircraft in the entire war, like the Messerschmitt Bf-109, the Focke-Wulf FW-190, the Junkers Ju-87 Stuka, and the first operational jet fighters, the Messerschmitt Me-262 and the Heinkel He-162. They faced many challenges, such as a lack of fuel, spare parts, pilots, and poor training. The pilots also had to put up with the increasing strength and numbers of the Allied air forces, especially the British Royal Air Force and the United States. The Luftwaffe suffered heavy losses in the Battle of Britain, the Battle of Stalingrad, the Battle of Kursk, and the Allied bombing of Germany. They were a formidable and feared adversary for the Allies during World War II. They demonstrated their skill, courage, and loyalty to the Nazi regime until the end of the war. Sadly, they also committed many war crimes against civilians and enemy troops. Number 7. The Soviets' Red Army. The Soviet Red Army were combat forces that fought against Germany and its allies in World War II. The Red Army was formed in 1918 after the Bolshevik Revolution. They were loyal to the Communist Party and had a large force of soldiers, tanks, artillery, and aircraft that fought on multiple fronts across continents. The unit was also a deadly force that inflicted massive casualties during the war. The Red Army officially lost 6.3 million killed in action, with 555,400 deaths by disease and 4.6 million missing or captured. Still, some Russian scholars estimate that the total military losses were well over 11 million. They also killed or captured countless enemy soldiers, especially Germans, and were responsible for most of the German military losses, which totaled nearly 5.3 million. On top of that, they also destroyed thousands of enemy vehicles and aircraft. The Red Army faced multiple challenges and hardships during the war, like the German invasion of 1941, the brutal siege of Leningrad, massive losses at Kiev and Vyazma, the lack of supplies and equipment, and harsh weather conditions. They also suffered from political purges, repression, and propaganda that affected both morale and leadership. The Red Army also achieved many victories during the war, like the defense of Moscow, the counteroffensive at Stalingrad, the liberation of Eastern Europe, the encirclement of Berlin, and the capture of many Nazi leaders. They were instrumental in defeating Nazi Germany and ending World War II. Number 6. The Pathfinders. The Pathfinders were a group of elite soldiers who played a vital role in airborne operations during World War II. They were specially trained to parachute or glide ahead of the main forces and mark landing or drop zones with visual signals. They also had to secure and defend those areas until the arrival of the main force. The Pathfinders faced many dangers, consisting of enemy fire, bad weather, navigation errors, and limited communication. They started out as a combination of both the British and American forces, which learned from their experiences in the early stages of war that they needed a more accurate and reliable way to guide their airborne troops to targets. The British Pathfinders were part of the RAF Bomber Command, and their main goal was to locate and mark targets with flares. The American Pathfinders were part of the 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions and were tasked with providing positive guidance and control for the troop carrier aircraft. The Pathfinders participated in major operations of World War II, like Operation Husky, the invasion of Sicily, Operation Avalanche, the invasion of Italy, Operation Overlord, the invasion of Normandy, and more. In each mission, they demonstrated their courage, skill, and dedication to their cause. They often had to improvise and adapt to difficult situations, such as using alternative signals when their equipment failed or finding new landing sites when the originals were compromised. They also had to put up with harsh conditions like cold, hunger, fatigue, and isolation. The Pathfinders were a crucial factor in the success of the Allied airborne strategy during World War II. They enabled the delivery of thousands of paratroopers and glider troops to their objectives with precision and efficiency. They also contributed to the destruction of enemy targets and the disruption of their defenses. They were a small but elite group of soldiers who earned the respect of their comrades and foes alike. They were truly deadly warriors who paved the way for their nation's victory. Number 5. The 36th Infantry Division. The 36th Infantry Division was an American division composed of units from the Texas and Oklahoma National Guard and was nicknamed the Lone Star Division or the T-Patchers due to their distinctive shoulder patch. The division was known for its courage, tenacity, and extremely high casualty rate. The 36th Infantry Division first saw combat back in September 1943 when it landed at Salerno, Italy. It was the first American division to reach the European continent, and it faced fierce resistance from Nazi troops. They suffered over 4,000 casualties in the first 10 days of fighting alone, but still managed to secure a beachhead and advance further inland. The division kept fighting in Italy until July 1944, participating in the Battle of San Pietro, Monte Cassino, Anzio, and Rome. They then moved to southern France and landed on August 15, 1944 as part of Operation Dragoon. The division liberated multiple towns and cities, including Marseille, Toulon, Montélimar, and Lyon. In November 1944, they entered Germany and fought in the Vosges Mountains and the Colmar Pocket. The troops crossed the Rhine River in March of 1945 and before advancing into Austria. On the way, they also liberated several concentration camps, including Dachau and Kaufering. The division ended the war near the Brenner Pass on May 2, 1945. The 36th Infantry Division was one of the most decorated and deadly groups of soldiers during World War II. They received 3 Presidential Unit Citations and 5 Campaign Streamers, had 14 Medal of Honor recipients, and 208 Distinguished Service Cross recipients. Number 4. The Submariners. Submariners were some of the most courageous warriors in World War II. They operated stealthy vessels that could creep up on enemy ships and convoys from underwater by using torpedoes and mines. They also faced constant threats from enemy anti-submarine weapons like depth charges, sonar, and aircraft. They had to endure harsh conditions, such as extremely cramped spaces, limited oxygen, and mechanical failures. Submariners played a key role in both the Pacific and Atlantic theaters of war. In the Pacific, U.S. Navy submarines waged a relentless attack against Japanese shipping, sinking countless merchant vessels and over 200 warships. They also performed both humanitarian and special operations missions, like rescuing downed pilots, delivering supplies and commandos, and freeing concentration camps. U.S. submarines claimed about 55% of all Japanese naval losses, but also suffered the highest casualty rate out of all the U.S. service branches, losing 52 boats and 3,506 men. In the Atlantic, German U-boats posed a serious threat to Allied shipping lanes, especially in the early years of the war. They operated in wolf packs and used advanced technology for the time, like snorkels and acoustic torpedoes. They sank over 2,700 merchant ships and 175 warships, disrupting the vital supply lines between America and Europe. They also attacked naval bases and coastal cities with missiles. By mid-1943, the Allies gained the upper hand with improved sensors, weapons, and overall tactics. They sank over 700 U-boats and killed 28,000 German submariners. Number 3. The 1st, 3rd, and 4th Ranger Battalion. The 1st, 3rd, and 4th Ranger Battalion were elite units of the U.S. Army that carried out raids, reconnaissance missions, and sabotage behind enemy lines. They were modeled after the British Commandos and trained in Scotland. They were also known as Darby's Rangers for their commander, Major William O. Darby. The group saw their first action in August 1942 when they participated in the Dieppe raid in France along with the British and Canadian forces. The raid was a disaster since the Allies suffered heavy casualties and failed to accomplish their objectives. The Rangers then moved to North Africa, where they spearheaded the invasion of Algeria back in November 1942. They captured the port of Arzew and silenced 2 gun batteries and threatened the landing. They also saw conflict in Tunisia, where they conducted a dicey night raid on an enemy-held airfield at Sened Station. In July 1943, the Rangers participated in the invasion of Sicily, landing ahead of the main force and securing multiple key objectives. They also fought in Italy, where they faced some of their toughest battles yet. They scaled the cliffs of Anzio under heavy fire and held their positions against repeated counterattacks. The battalion also tried to break through the German defenses at Cisterna, but were ambushed and surrounded. Only 6 out of 767 Rangers escaped capture. They suffered high casualties throughout the war since they often faced overwhelming odds and met fierce resistance. They also endured harsh weather conditions, long marches, and constant danger. They were among the most decorated units in all of World War II, earning countless awards for valor and achievement. They also earned a reputation as fearless and skilled warriors who could accomplish any task given to them. Number 2. The Free French Forces. The Free French Forces were a political and military movement that resisted the Nazis' occupation of France and collaborationist Vichy regime. They were led by General Charles de Gaulle, who escaped to London after France fell in 1940 and broadcast a call to arms to his compatriots. The Free French Forces were made up of volunteers from France and its colonies who joined the Allies. They fought on multiple fronts like Africa, Europe, and Asia, with their own army, navy, and air force. They also supported the French resistance inside France by providing intelligence, sabotage, and guerrilla warfare. The Free French Forces faced many dangers, such as a lack of resources, equipment, and even recognition. They also had to put up with the hostility of the Vichy regime, which considered them all traitors and rebels. They suffered many casualties and hardships in their battles against the Axis power. The Free French Forces contributed to the liberation of France and its colonies, as well as to the defeat of Nazi Germany. They took part in major operations like the torch landings in North Africa, the Battle of Bir Hakeim, the Italian campaign, the Normandy invasion, the Battle of Paris, and the Rhine crossing. They also saw conflict in Syria, Lebanon, Madagascar, Indochina, and across the Pacific. The Free French Forces were a unique symbol of courage, patriotism, and resistance for the French people. They restored the honor and dignity of their nation after its humiliating defeat in 1940. They also paved the way for the creation of the Fourth Republic and the modern French state as we know it. Number 1. The Waffen SS. In the countless records of military history, few forces have been as controversial and discussed as the Waffen SS. Emerging as the combat branch of the notorious Nazi Schutzstaffel, or SS, during World War II, the Waffen SS distinguished itself as a formidable fighting force. Combining fanatical loyalty, rigorous training, and a ruthless commitment to the despicable Nazi cause, they left an irreversible mark on the battlefield. Formed in 1939, the Waffen SS was composed of individuals considered to embody the racial ideals of Nazi Germany. Unlike regular army soldiers, these troops were subject to a highly selective recruitment process that aimed to create an elite force made of the cream of the crop. The rigorous training they underwent instilled the principles of discipline, physical prowess, and unwavering obedience. By the peak of the war, the Waffen SS had grown into an army of about 900,000 men. Their combat effectiveness was undeniable. Whether engaging in large-scale offenses or covert operations, they demonstrated lethal abilities. At battles like Kharkov, Kursk, and the Ardennes, they fought with determination and often achieved remarkable success. Renowned for their tenacity and willingness to fight to the last man, the Waffen SS became synonymous with fanatical bravery. But their ferocity on the battlefield was overtaken by a dark legacy. Members of the Waffen SS were implicated in war crimes and many atrocities, from the mass executions at Oradour-sur-Glane to the systematic extermination of innocent civilians and prisoners of war. Their actions represented the darkest side of human history. These acts of brutality have forever tarnished the reputation of the Waffen SS and Germany. Their commitment to Nazi ideology was unwavering, adding to their reputation as a feared fighting force. While their battlefield courage was unwavering, their actions were inseparable from the larger context of Nazi aggression and genocide. Today, the legacy of the Waffen SS stands as a stark reminder of the dangers of blind loyalty and the depths to which human beings can sink down to. While they were undoubtedly a deadly force, their actions serve as a somber testament to the consequences of unchecked power and the ever-present dangers of extremist ideologies. Which of these military units did you think was the most dangerous? Let us know what you think. And as always, don't forget to hit subscribe on your way out. See you next time.